God says he will change everything suddenly. He really means that. One of the things I've learned most in my life is that you can be in extremely difficult, stressful, complicated seasons or circumstances. And the more you try to find your own way out, the more you're going to spiral at the failure of your efforts. And you're going to look around trying to blame God, but also asking yourself the inevitable question, why is what I normally do not working now? Well, because you weren't ever intended to do what you normally do. You just lived under the grace to be allowed to do it in the first place. But you were intended to learn to rely on the Lord to meet the needs for you and to solve the problems for you. Your job every day was simply to do what you were responsible for doing that day, but not plan or prepare or execute in the hope of overcoming the problem yourself, right? And I know that sounds very muddy. I don't know how to make that more simple than that. But I want to give you some really incredible, not examples, but revelations, right? That I just had a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and I told him, I was like, listen, man, I know that you're trying to move. The house that the Lord has for you, you're not more likely to find or move into based on submitting more applications, right? Like spiraling in the stress of submitting 1,000 applications to relocate doesn't improve how quickly you move into where God wants you to move into. I'm like, so instead of freaking out thinking that you have to send more and 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 do more, and then filling your time and your experience with the evidence that your efforts don't work, and then creating the stress for you, instead of doing that, why don't you pray over the Lord to, Lord, I know you want me to relocate. I know it's time for me and my family to do that. Create the opportunity for me to do it so that I can walk into it. And I'm like, and then by surrendering that outcome to him, the process that you create is one that doesn't rely on your efforts or sacrifices to get through, but rather relies on the obedience and faithfulness of the Lord to honor meeting your need and the goal or objective he has for changing your life. And then you allow him to create the opportunity for change. And then you recognize it when it shows up and you step into it and walk through it. That is significantly more peaceful, but also it maintains the undeniable line of evidence that God does in fact show up and meet your needs. And that it helps you not just maintain faith or trust in the Lord's willingness and capability to honor and serve you and meet your needs, but more specifically, it avoids the inevitable, well, I tried to do it myself and it didn't work, so now I'm losing faith and hope and trust, because you just fill your life and time with failures. And you're like, oh my God, the historical evidence that I have here is that nothing ever works. How can I trust God? When you're trying to do it under your own strength in the first place, instead of wholly relying on him to do it. I hope that helps.